Howdy, partner. You look like a man who could use a drink.
Someone killed my family today.
Oh, that's a terrible story. This frontier's full of that. Hell, my family was strung up just the other day. Never did find out who did it, but life goes on, right? Gotta run the saloon.
My son was murdered down by the river fishing for trout.
My dog was gutted.
All of us have had loved ones murdered. Whoever did it is a master at hiding their identity. I don't trust anyone. How do I know none of you did it and are just watching me suffer?
Well, how do we know you didn't kill our
Yeah,
families?
how do we know you didn't kill your own family just for the attention?
Those are some powerful words. You're deflecting. You piece of shit. I can see it in your eyes. You know something. You killed my family.
No, you killed my family.
You killed my family.
He was just a dog.
Fuck your dog.
You killed my family.
You killed my family.
I'll kill every one of you. You.
Spaghetti Westerns ahoy! Grab your stereotypical 6-shooters and 10-gallon hats because we're diving into Westerado double-barreled. This soundtrack is composed entirely by Sam von Lonkhuizen, a man who I can find little out about outside of his work on this game, which I find a shame because the talent behind this music is unmistakable. The entire soundtrack is accompanying one big revenge experience that's actually pretty fun. It is hard to pick just a few songs to highlight, but there are definitely some that I'll note above others. So let's jump right into it. Quick background, the game centers around a character whose family was killed, home set ablaze, they were murdered. The goal of the game is to find out who did it through a light role-playing and action experience. You talk to townsfolk, and the idea is that anyone is a suspect, and the murderer changes every time you play the game, which I find a really cool aspect to it. And they did it in a simple way. You know, it has a nice mixture of action and dialogue, and it allows the player to kind of choose what they want to do. You can essentially be a lawful good, or you can be a downright asshole, antagonizing and bullying your way to the truth. The game itself has a real Atari aesthetic, which I think makes it easy to have the murderer change each time. You know, they just swap little details about the character who ends up being the bad guy each time you play it, and you have to guess and put together who the murderer is. So the Atari aesthetic comes through with a low pixel count, but I find it still very charming and beautiful to look at as someone who appreciates pixel art and that kind of simplicity. So the first song I want to highlight is the Westerado theme. It's rife with the mood of the game's story, which, again, is to find your family's murderer. There's an underpinning of pure determination while the solemn harmonica and banjo play. And even deeper yet, the song betrays a real sense of adventure when you're playing the game, even if the content is moody. Every instrument you can imagine when you think Western is present here to give the whole experience. It's a real calm and charming song that has a real sense of desolation to it. You feel alone in the wilderness while you're listening to it, and you can imagine the emotions of your character, this little sprite on screen as it plays. It really deftly delivers the tragic Western aesthetic we've come to love in film. Now, a Western wouldn't be complete quite without the galloping military appearing at some point. Van Lonkhuizen and his orchestra allow that to burst onto the scene with Trembling Earth, a powerful and elegant song. It opens with typical military bugle. You get a real sense of space in this song, and that adds to its depth and intensity. The flute is flighty and light, while the percussion keeps the charge going in strong fashion. It's a slight departure from the moodiness of the rest of the album, but it's a fresh moment perfectly in keeping with the game itself and the album. Now next we have the forest theme, and wow, I mean, there's a lot to be said about this song. This is easily my favorite track on the album. It's got a beautiful melody, and the violin, or fiddle for that matter, is stunning. It's a little more upbeat, but completely keeps the tone with the rest of the album that's, very solemn. This is perhaps the most wonderful example of adventure the soundtrack has to offer. And while playing the game, there's an in-the-zone quality to it that kept my in-game actions almost in beat with the music because it's so prominent and fun to listen to. You can really feel hopeful while listening to the song, yet I feel like the fiddle just sings the protagonist's anguish at the same time. It's really a beautiful song that captures the complexity of the situation. There's a lighthearted trot to it, but it's accompanying this downtrodden melody that really just ensnares the listener. The orchestra really shines throughout the album, but I think here especially, I found myself kind of lingering in the areas where this song played while I was in the game, and that's no small thing. I think to capture the player in that way where they're altering their experience to kind of listen more, I think that's important, and this did that for me. Now, of course, not everything can be delicate and pretty on this album. It does capture that signature grit at specific moments, so we get that full Western experience. One such moment is during a shootout on your trusty steed during the final battle. Sure, the music plays during any gunfight, but let's be real, it was made for the culmination of your quest more than anything else. The song gets a little theatrical towards the second half with synthesizer strings, but the majority of the song is intense drumming with a dirty-ass electric guitar that really sells the Western vibe with ease. think the song itself does a great job of selling the intensity of the situation without having to play the game. The percussion acts as the stampeding horses while that dirty electric accents the gunplay in the theatrical fight. It's a really fun addition. There is plenty of running through the desert in this game, and von Lankeisen captures even more of that loneliness, that deadness of the open desert in his song Dry Desert. Pretty straightforward title if I've ever heard one. The song has a strong feel of that signature desperation, and the little accents here and there portray being in the middle of nowhere and trying to survive this particular journey. It verges on the side of aesthetic rather than being a complete song, and there are a couple other tracks such as this on this album. As the song wears on, the horns take on a more prominent role in that traditional spaghetti western aesthetic. It all adds to the lonely flavor of this track. Now, all in all, this experience was super fun. Even just listening to the soundtrack, which is what this podcast is all about, there's a real adventure to be had. It brings back all the fun I had while playing the game, and I haven't touched it in a year and a half. Every musician here is very talented. Every one of them. I want to make that clear. Von Lankeisen composed the music, but I will list the other musicians out of respect for their hard work. Jur Werner on the acoustic and electric guitars, Joost Uhler on the banjo, Volkert van Blom, percussion, Sophie Ansems, violin or fiddle in this case, Marieke Kodjek, trumpet, and Daniel Mosqueda, harmonica, and none other than the composer himself on additional guitar, harmonica, and piano. Now, if you haven't figured it out yet, this segment will lay bare that this game is through and through a spaghetti western experience, and it accomplishes that very well. It never gets old during gameplay, and that's important to me, and I'm sure many others. None of the songs are with you long enough during the game because it's pretty fast-paced, moving from screen to screen, location to location. It gives an unmistakable sense of sorrow and intensity, and it just sells the trope of a gunslinger out for revenge and exterminating everyone responsible. So I'm going to give this album an 8 out of 10. The official release is great, but missing some elements from the game that I found unfortunate. That, and there are a couple throwaway tracks, one of which I will mention, like Abandoned Mine, which is a pretty simple track. It's not bad so much as it isn't much of a song. Overall, it's a great album that really sells the Desperado vibe. Give it a listen while you go and avenge something. Sam Van Lankeisen has a Bandcamp. It's SamVanLonkhyzen.bandcamp.com. Now, I'm plugging him because the album is only $8, and it is really worth the money. They all deserve credit for this, and I want to make sure they get it in any way possible. So thanks for listening, guys. I know this was a short one. It's a short album, it's a real gem that kind of flew under a lot of people's radars. I just kind of happened upon this game while scrolling through my Xbox store one day a few years ago. So I was shocked by how good this album was while I was playing the game. And yeah, thank you for listening. Again, like and subscribe. I really appreciate all of you. And I will catch you guys next time. Yeehaw.
He was just a guy.